Okay, so good morning, everyone, and good afternoon to our regional coordination specialists who have joined us for this webinar. This is the first in a series of 3 webinars to conduct training on the fully completed IMS. So our colleagues from Development Gateway, Martha, Taryn, and Carmen will actually be running the training today, so they will be presenting. So without much ado, I'm going to hand over to the Development Gateway team.
Great, good morning. This is Martha Stade. As Abigail said, I work with Development Gateway, and excited to be walking through the system with you this morning. Hopefully you're all a little bit familiar with it, but if not, never fear. We wanted to let you know, first of all, that there is an official user guide that you can download for the system on the front page. If you see here, the user guide PDF. So this will walk you through anything in the system, and it can be accessed even when you are not logged in. So even if you're having login trouble, you can download that. There's also a separate guide for the report builder, which is one of the more complex tools in the system, and we'll be having a separate session on that later this week if you are interested in joining and getting a more in-depth look at some of the analytical tools. Hopefully this screen looks a little bit familiar to you. This is the main login screen for the IMS. I'm going to go ahead and log in and also let you know that the documents I mentioned from the home screen, you can also access them through the support link, which is on the upper right-hand side of every page on the site. Just click support and then you will see the same files here. So that will be a resource you can access. I'd like to begin by giving you kind of an overview of the system, and then we'll be going into a more detail focused on specifically how to access data that has been entered into the system for reporting needs. I will talk a little bit, and my colleague Taryn will take over as well, and we'll go through the entire reporting module. So to kind of just give you the 10,000-foot view, the IMS is made up of 2 separate data entry modules as well as a reporting module. You can see here on the landing homepage the work plans module and the coordination profile. This is where countries enter their data into the system annually. So the work plan allows UN country teams to both enter their annual work plan at the beginning of the year and then report their progress at the end of the year, including their activities and outputs. The coordination profile, and I'm going to click here just to show you the dashboard, it is made up of 14 different sections. So they are divided into somewhat more manageable chunks for user data entry by topic area. So as you can see, for instance, there's a crisis, post-crisis prevention profile here. And each section has a separate completion status. We'll be talking about that a little more in a moment. So just to highlight, you can see that most of these sections are marked as incomplete. The delivering as one profile is the only one which has been completed, and the overall status is incomplete up at the top here. So this is the view that country offices see for their specific UN country team. We'll be looking at some of the more bird's eye views of how each country is progressing on their reporting in a moment. An important thing to emphasize, if you see at the bottom of the screen here, there's a note that says all sections must be completed for any of your country's data to appear in reports. This is key because country information is not going to be calculated into any of the reports we're reviewing today unless all sections for that year are input. So it won't be enough for a user to have completed and submitted the delivering as one profile. They'll need to complete all sections of the coordination profile. And same is true of the work plan. I'll head back to the home page with the slight distinction that there is a two-step process. A draft is first submitted, and then each country team has a validator who reviews the information, and it must get to that final stage of being validated before the information is included in the system. I did forget to mention that we'll have some time for questions at the end, so please feel free to save up anything you'd like to cover. Since we're focusing today on the reports, I'm going to click on the side here. You can also access reports. There's up in the toolbar menu near the upper right, it says reports and data entry. Reports there will get you to the same reports landing page. There are 6 different mechanisms or sections, tools for accessing data in the IMS. We're going to start at the left and go right through. If you're staring at this page wondering where you want to go, one feature is that you'll be able to mouse over, just hover your mouse over any of these and get a little pop-up which will explain a little bit more about what is in each section. So during the reporting cycle, we're going to show you the data entry status dashboards, which can be very useful during the reporting cycle. You click on them and there are separate status dashboards for the 2 reporting modules, or data entry modules rather. I'm going to click on coordination profile status. And what this shows you is the status of every country in the system for the current year, which is 2016. Right on the left here below the country name, you can see there's a drop down, so you're able to switch between years and view the status for different years. By default, it will show you the most recently completed cycle, which in this case is 2016. So to familiarize you with this, the overall status for every country is listed here, but you can also see the status of each of those 14 subforms that I was just showing you before. If you mouse over each of them, it's going to tell you which form that is. Of course, when they're all completed, then that's not too interesting, but we're going to scroll down here, see an example of an incomplete country, and if you're wondering which forms haven't been completed, you can see, oh, yellow means it's been begun, there's some data entered, but it hasn't been completed and submitted. And the overall status there will reflect that as well. There are 3 statuses. They can be not yet started, incomplete, which means they're begun but not finished, and then completed. Also important to note is that you will be able to access any submitted data for a country just by clicking on the name on the left here. So if we click the country name, we're going to show a printable view of every section that has been submitted thus far. So I'm just doing a quick scroll here so you can get a sense of what's shown, but this can be a great way to grab country-specific data very quickly, and in this specific case, you can even access information from one section even if another section might not yet be submitted. I'm going to close this and head back to the main screen. I want to touch on filters here for you. There's filtering throughout the system to let you access specific subsets of data. In this specific example, it's presumably going to be helpful if you are one of the regional coordinators, for instance, to be able to look just at your own region's information. So you can see here that all of the regions are currently included. I'm going to remove all except one. You just click on each one to remove it. And then once we've gotten down to the one we'd like, we click filter, and you can see that particular region. If you wanted to, for instance, do more than one region, that's fine too. You could do, say, Western and Central Africa as well as Eastern and Southern Africa. Click filter again, and it's going to show you that subset. So I will head back. If you'll remember, the reports button there will take you to the report landing page. We'll click on status entry again. And it's a very similar mechanism for the work plans. It's a bit more complex because there is the two-step validation process. So as you can see here, it's giving you the totals for how many countries are in which stage of the process here. So there's plan, which can be both submitted and then is validated. And then progress is that section at the end of the year, which after that is re-entered, progress can be submitted and then validated. And you can see here the different states for every country. In this case, you can't click on the name to access the country information, but we'll show you a couple of other ways that you can access country work plans. So I'm going to head back to the reports page, show you again a new section. The second button here is standard reports. So these are standardized reports which have been compiled from data in the system, most of them specific to certain reporting requirements or mechanisms. So there is a really wide range of ways to sort of parse this data and access it. I encourage you to take a look, play around with it a little bit, familiarize yourself with these reports because the data may be of great use to you depending on how you need to use it throughout the year and to meet your own reporting obligations. A couple that I'd like to highlight here is the UN agency report. This is the newest report in the system, and it looks at an agency's presence across UNDG. So we have our year here. You could pick other years, but we'll leave it at 2016, the current default. And we're going to choose FAO as our agency. This is a drop-down with all the potential options here. So we'll choose that and click search. And we'll wait for that to generate. Like the other sections, you can also filter for specific countries or specific regions, which I can show you in a moment. FAO is one of the biggest reports because they have one of the largest presences across UN country teams. So this may take a moment to generate. In fact, I'm going to close out this window and choose one that will be a little quicker. Once these reports have been generated once, they will load much more quickly for you. So it will not always be a long wait. But as you can see, just because these are very complex and information-rich reports, they can take a moment to generate. While we're waiting for that one to load, let me head back to the list of standard reports. The other one that we'd like to emphasize today is the UN country fact sheet. If you click here, it's the first one in the list. You can choose any country and create a custom report which pulls data from both sections of the system for the current year. So we're going to go ahead and choose one country here. and wait for that to generate. Okay, it seems like this may be having a technical glitch, which we will definitely look at. I'm going to move on. We'll come back to this, but you are able to come access these reports at any point yourself in the system, and you can go ahead and try that out. And of course, please let us know if you do encounter any issues where the report is not generating. That's something that we'll get taken care of for you. Taryn, would you like to go ahead and talk a little bit about the data export options?
Yeah, definitely. All right, let me see if I can become a presenter. Okay. All right, sorry, how do I share my screen? There we go. Perfect. All right, can everyone see my screen now? Yes. Okay.
Yes, we can see Antarctica.
Okay. So going back to the reports, I'm going to show you the next section, so the Export Country Office Data section. This is the area where you're going to be able to export all of the raw data into Excel format. So once we get here, we have 3 different options to choose from. So we have the coordination profile export, the work plan data export, and then the SG letter export, which is obviously within the work plan, but we do have a separate export for that, so you can just get the data out from your SG letter. So let's start with the work plan export. So Martha had talked about filters a bit before, and essentially this is allowing you to choose what data you want to export. So you have your year, and let's do last year's 2015, and you can select if you want to show export data just from delivering as one countries or countries that aren't delivering as one. You can select a specific region. So we're going to select Arab states. You could do, if you just wanted to filter for one specific country, I could also pick one country to export their work plan data for. Or I could filter for countries that are high income, low income countries. Similarly, LDC or NCC countries, or if they have a peacekeeping or special UN mission, or if they don't. So these are all options that you could say, I want all the work plan data for these countries. So I'm just going to do 2015 Arab states, and then I hit submit. And it's going to download into an Excel file for me. There we go. Now, each of those different countries that are in Arab states are going to be on a different tab. So I'll have those all across, and you see here that you have, for the country programming work stream, you have your outputs, your expected outputs, and all of the different data for the budget, as well as the activities that has been entered into the work plan in this Excel export. So there's your work plan. Going back to this, we also have our SG letter export, and you're going to see those same filters. You could export the SG letter for delivering as one country, for a specific region, for a specific country. So let's say I want it for Armenia. I'm going to download that. And then, and Armenia hasn't uploaded their 2016 yet one. So I'll change the year to 2015. Go ahead and pick Armenia again. And there's their 2015 SG letter data. You'll have all of that in the different columns. And it would be the same if I selected more than one country. I'd have the different countries along here as well. So our coordination profile export, since the coordination profile is so much larger and it's formatted a little bit differently, we do have a slightly different process. So we have an additional form here where you can select which coordination profile form you want to download the data for. So you do them one by one. So we're going to say that we want the general profile. There's an additional form here that asks you if you want just aggregated multi-selects or aggregated multi-selects. So what this actually means is how you want your Excel spreadsheet to be formatted. So if you recall in the coordination profile, there are a lot of forms or a lot of fields that ask you to select multiple choices. So if you want them all aggregated into one column, you'll select no here. And then I'm going to show you what I mean by this. So I'm going to say no. And what that actually ends up looking like here is if you look at this resident coordinator function, you see I have all of them in the same column here. So I have HC, RR, so these are all the different resident coordinator functions for the different countries. But if I hit yes, yes, I want them disaggregated. It means all of these different fields are going to have different columns. So when I hit submit, what that ends up turning into is we have that same field, but we have a column for DSRSG, we have a column for head of agency, we have a column for each of those different options that are selected. Now, if there are fields where you're allowed to enter in your own response as an other, all of that will be in one column still, but all of the pre-entered options will select in different columns here. So it really depends on what you want to do with your Excel export, if it matters if you want them all in one column or for some reason you want them split so that you can see, you know, I want to easily filter for just my head of agencies and see all of those together. So that's kind of the idea behind that. So that's our export and how you get the raw data out into Excel. We're going to go back to reports, and I'm going to show you how to get all of the different files out that are uploaded onto the system. So going back to reports, this is the file download. So as you know, the coordination profile especially asks you to upload a lot of different documents. Your BOS, your several different forms. So we're going to take a look at those here. There we go. So again, you select which year you want the data from. So here we have 2016, and you're going to select your module. So it's going to allow you to select between your work plan and your coordination profile. So we're going to select coordination profile. And you can select if you want from a specific region or specific country. Maybe you're only looking for one country's Undef, for example. Or you wanted to look at all the total for the region. So let's do Asia Pacific. Now I could do all of the documents for Asia Pacific, that's going to be pretty hefty, but I would suggest picking a specific document. So all of the documents that are in coordination profile are listed here. So you can select them one by one. So the joint risk assessment. And then again, we have those same filters if you wanted to look at all countries that are delivering as one, peacekeeping missions, etc. So we'll hit submit. So right now we're asked for 2016 Asia Pacific Joint Risk Assessments. Now it'll show me all of the documents that countries in Asia Pacific have uploaded for that, and I could download them one by one, or I could download them all in a zip file. So it'll give me all of those zipped, and that's especially helpful when there's a lot of countries that you're wanting to look at their files for. Or I could just do them one by one if I realize I just want one. And then you have their file. So those are the two things that I was going to show you today, and I think I'm going to pass it back to Martha.
Excellent. Let me just switch back to my screen here. Taryn, I think you can select to make me the presenter again. Excellent. Here we go. So, as promised, we are speeding our way through these options here on the reports landing page. A couple of things that we haven't covered yet: the report builder and the maps. So let me take a moment to show you the report builder. As I mentioned, this is one of the more complex tools in the system, to the point that we're having a separate training just focused on this on Thursday, which I very much encourage you to join. It's going to cover many different ways to get information out of the system if the standard reports and the downloads and data exports aren't exactly getting you the right structure or combination of information that you're looking for. So if you go ahead and click Report Builder here, it will open up this fairly daunting looking blank screen. But to give you a brief overview, because we do want to leave time for questions, the way that the Report Builder works is it houses information in a data structure called cubes. So each section of the IMS has a couple of different cubes associated with it. This sounds strange, but let me pull one up so that we can actually get a hands-on look at it. As you can see here, the name of each section is listed, as well as the subsection. So I'm going to choose from Common Services and Harmonized Business Practices, the business operations areas. This essentially, each cube has a number of measures and a number of variables. Measures are things that can be counted or quantified. Variables are any of the other options here, so by which it can be cross-referenced. So we're going to choose number of business operations areas. For every query or table you make in the report builder, you must choose at least one measure and at least one variable. And it's going to tell you that right here, to include at least one level on rows. So that just means we're going to choose region, click it, it will show up here in rows. Now, as you can see, this instantly generated for us a table. Everything generated in the report builder is in the form of a table. So that's why you need at least two items, so that there's enough to make both axes of the table. The number of business operations areas you can see here, and then the regions on the left. This is a very simple query, but this is the basis of how the report builder works. We'll go into more detail on Thursday about where you go from here, how you can add many more pieces of data. You can sort and aggregate or disaggregate them in various ways. One of the, I think, coolest parts of the report builder is that whatever table you have made here, you can just, on the right, you'll see a little icon of a chart. You click that, and you instantly have a number of different charts formats on the right side, which you could use to put this data into reports and basically visualize in a one-click way the information that you have pulled into your table. So you can see that here. There are a number of different ways to parse it on the side. So that's something that's also fun to go in and kind of play around with, see how you can present your data differently. Going back, we've covered a number of these items here. So the one that's left is maps, and I've left it to the end because I think it's the kind of most fun to look at because it is very visual. The maps are distinct from every other section of the IMS in that they are publicly available. So even users who are not logged in can, if they have the URL, come and look at the maps. This is so that this data is available to the community and to improve transparency. There are two different maps here. The one on the left shows countries by status, and the one on the right charts progress towards standard operating procedures. I'm going to choose the one on the left and open that up. And you can see here, there are three buttons along the top. Delivering as one, mission, and Undef. So delivering as one is currently highlighted. It's showing for the current year the fact that the countries highlighted in green are delivering as one designated countries. So you can mouse over any of them, see Brazil, no, Mali, yes. Let's say you are only interested in looking at Asia Pacific and countries with the low middle income classification for not 2016 but 2015. I'm intentionally choosing a lot of different filters just to show that you can do so and get very granular in terms of what kind of map you would like to see. So in this case, the only shaded countries are those which meet this combination of filters, and you can see that, for instance, Indonesia is, yes, delivering as one country, but the Philippines is not for 2015. Note that the default will always be the most current year, so if you want to ensure that you're getting the most current data, we'll change it back to 2016, and for instance, Pakistan is now classified as a lower middle income country and showing up, delivering as one. To switch between different designations, we can just click these buttons at the top here. Mission changes so that now the shading shows which countries are designated as having a multidimensional peacekeeping operation or a field-based political special mission. So we can see Iran, yes, and here Indonesia, no. You'll notice that this stayed on the specific set of filters that I had chosen before. If you want to remove those, you just click the X, and once again click the Update Map button to zoom back out. Undef shows progress towards Undef, and it's a little more complex. We have a few more colors here. You can see at the bottom here and the bottom of any of the maps the legend showing that this is displaying, in this case, the time to the next Undef. So countries in orange have fewer than 2 years until their Undef expires. Countries in yellow are between 2 and 3 years, and green countries have more than 3 years remaining until their next Undef. So once again, you can hover over countries in order to get more specifics, and you can apply the same kind of filters we looked at before. So let's say you have chosen a specific combination of countries, and you would like to take this information and show it elsewhere, include it in a report or presentation. The upper right side of any of the maps includes a download button, which will let you export the map to either a JPEG image or a PDF. So if I choose export to PDF, it downloads for me a PDF, which then shows you the specific map that you created through the tool. Just heading back to the maps page, once more, we'll take a look at the other map, Progress Towards Standard Operating Procedures, briefly. This one is more complex than the other. The other was mostly showing yes, no, in terms of mission or delivering as one, or that time to next Undef. The Progress Towards the Standard Operating Procedures is charting how well each country is doing towards the entire list of core elements of the standard operating procedures. So if you scroll down here, you'll see again this little legend which says, as you might imagine, countries with red have none. Countries implementing all of them for the selected year, which is always the most recent year by default, 2016, are green, and then you have a range of colors in between. So if we highlight Tanzania, we see that they're showing all. DRC is currently showing none. And this information has several more filters. The familiar ones from before, year, regions, and income classification. You can also choose which countries are to only show delivering as one countries, or non-delivering as one countries if you wanted. And there are two new ones specific to this map. Progress toward one core element of the SOPs, which shows you if you're only interested in seeing, for instance, which countries have a results group established. You choose that and then click Update Map, and it's going to show you. We have fewer colors here because it's there are only three options. The country will have answered no, they will have answered yes partially, or yes fully. So progress towards SOP results group established, we see Brazil says yes partially, India says yes fully, and Yemen says no. I'm going to remove this filter and click Update Map. It'll get us back to default. And then you see over here on the right, it says include partial progress towards SOPs. As I was just showing, there are three different answers a country may give: no, yes partially, or yes fully. So by default, when it's looking at the countries, it classifies a yes partially as equivalent to a no answer. So when it's looking at how many of these have been implemented and assigning a color. If you choose include partial progress, it will instead count a yes partially answer as equivalent to a yes fully. So I will select that, I will click Update Map, and you'll see countries look like they're performing a lot better when you give credit for that partial progress. For instance, we don't have any red countries anymore, and you can see several countries have moved from, say, some to most. As before, you can download any of these as graphics or PDF, and you can apply any combination of the filters here. I know that this was kind of breakneck. We went through a lot of things, but wanted to leave time at the end for some questions. So I think that we can go ahead and do that now. If Abigail, you want to take back over.
Thanks, Martha. So there were some questions already in the chat, and I have been responding to some of those. So please go ahead and type your questions in the chat, and we will respond. I think we will try to share them around. Maybe we'll Martha and the team there will answer some of them, and then I can answer any ones that are specific to us here. So we are now looking in the chat, and I think we responded to the questions that came in already. Please do go ahead now and type in your questions, and we will respond. We have the next 10-15 minutes to do so. Thank you.
And just below the chat window, there is a drop-down that says to, and if you can change that from organizers only to the next option, organizers and panelists only, that will be helpful. Let us all see it.
Can you repeat that, Martha? Where is the that option?
So where the chat window is, right below where it says type message here, there's a drop down that says to organizers only or to organizers and panelists only.
Okay. So we are welcoming your questions in the question box, and then we would be happy to read them out. I think that might be the best way to go. Would you want to take some of the questions that you answered privately and sort of explain to people what you said, because that might be beneficial for others as well?
Okay, while the presentation was going on, we had a few questions. One of them was, I think, from Sandra asking about the ARC. And I just responded saying this presentation is about the IMS, and the ARC is a separate tool which is being led by the leadership team. And I believe that system will be under development. So just to raise this point to everyone that the ARC and the IMS are two separate systems. Obviously, there are discussions going on in terms of how there might be some linkages with the work plan, but for now, this training is focused on the IMS. So that was one question. And the other question was asking for temporary access. And usually, we do set up the IMS accounts based upon requests we receive. And we don't usually give temporary passwords out. We always give the individual a username and a password. So if you forget your password, all you have to do is click on the forget password link and follow that process, and you should be able to develop a new password. But just to say, we don't normally give temporary passwords. If somebody needs access to the IMS, then we will give you a username and a password right away. So that was one other question that came in.
Let's just check to see whether there are any new questions that maybe this question.
Okay, so Dunstan asked a question on the Undef Tracker based on the presentation that Martha was giving on the map. And just to say, the map just gives you kind of an overview. There is an Undef Tracker standard report within the standard report section that you can also get all of this information, and it will give you all the detailed information in terms of tracking the Undef for all of the countries, and you can filter by region and by year. So just to say to colleagues out there that is a standard report that is available to you as well.
Okay, we have another question. Can I just read it out, Abigail? Or we have a question from Ninama Rai from I'm not sure which country. Asia Pacific. Asia Pacific. How will this platform developed by Development Gateway and the UN Info platform being developed by CSF interact?
Okay, Nina, that's a good question. So, as you know, the IMS is basically has two sections, which is the Coordination Profile Survey and the UNCT Annual Work Plans. The UN Info will obviously be a system that is being developed to digitize the Undef element and and aspects of the BOS as well. So these are collecting two separate data. At the global level, what we are looking at is obviously the linkages will be how, when you're in the IMS, you are easily able to access the UN info, and vice versa. If you're in UN info, you're able to access the IMS without logging in and out of each system separately. However, we are not looking to link the data because they're two distinct separate sets of data that we will be collecting within these two systems. But we're looking in terms of the user interface, how we make that as user friendly as possible so that it's easy to access the two systems. Once you're in one, you can access the other one. I hope that responds to that question for now. Okay, someone, I don't know who the...
Better.
Oh,
Oh, no, I'm sorry. There were no questions. Sagityan Antiano.
okay.
Maybe since you mentioned the Undef Tracker, if you can show it.
Yes, sure.
Or you can ask Taryn.
Yeah. Taryn and Martha, can I maybe ask you, because I actually have my screen here with all the questions and it's a little bit tricky to switch from one platform to another. Would you be able to just go into the standard reports and actually show the Undef Tracker standard report from your side? Thank you.
Sure, just a moment. We'll pull that up.
Thank you.
Okay, so please let me know if you can't see my screen. The Undef Tracker is one of the standard reports. So if you're on this landing page, you choose standard reports. Undef Tracker is the second one here on the list. And this is what it looks like. You can see this is for the current year, and for every country you can see Undef start date as well as Undef end date. These are as entered by the countries. And it's color coded so you can see how long until the next one. And again, you can choose to filter by region, by income status, etc., or even look for a specific country and see time to next Undef. And one thing I think we didn't highlight is that for every standard report in the system, you can download it in any one of three formats. You can download this report as a PDF, an Excel file, or a Word file. So it's quite easy to just grab whatever information you have and then either use it in whatever way that you need to.
Recorded. Let me just repeat because we were muted. Apologies for that. We just have a few minutes left in this webinar, so if you have any questions that you would like to ask, training-related questions, please put them in the question box. And also I should say that this webinar has been recorded, and we will be sharing the recording. So if you have any, if you'd like to re-listen to it, that would be possible. And I think that, yeah. Okay, there's one question. Oh, here comes a couple more from Per Berglander. You were talking about the password. To whom should we write to get it?
Okay, Per, that's an easy one. We have a dedicated IMS account, which is ims.doco@undg.org. So that's the main address to write to request user accounts. That's ims.doco@undg.org.
Okay, we're just looking over the questions now here. We have a few more questions coming in. Should we take this, the first one here, or this one from Albert? Okay, we have a question. question from Albert in Liberia. Is the system also in other languages such as French and Spanish?
Okay, Albert, that's a good question. No, the IMS hasn't been developed as a multilingual system. So at the moment, it's only in English, but in relation to the work plan, I know Francophone colleagues do actually enter their work plans in English and in Spanish, but the system itself hasn't been built as a multilingual system. It's mostly Anglophone. However, with just to say, with UN Info, we're obviously looking at having that as a multilingual system.
Do you want to take this question? All right, we have a couple remaining questions. One from Sagatian Atianov. In case we have an Undef extension, how it is reflected?
So this is a good question. So basically, since you can log into the IMS at any time during the year, it doesn't shut down after the reporting season. You can log in anytime. So if you get, this is a great question, and I'm so glad you asked it. If you do get an extension on your Undef, you go into the IMS to the specific question on the start date and the end date of your Undef, and you change it. So that way, when anyone runs a report tracking the Undef countries and where all countries are in their program cycle, will have up-to-date information. So you just pop in the system, update it very quickly, and be sure to submit it and or validate it as needed. So that should be for that one. That ensures we have updated data.
Yeah, so I don't see any other questions. Okay. All right. So I think let me just pass it back to Abigail. Maybe a few closing thoughts as time is basically up.
Yes, thank you, Peter. So as it's 10:02 now, just to say thank you basically to all of you colleagues who took the time to join this webinar, and to remind you that tomorrow we have the training which is focusing on from the data entry perspective. So colleagues who do the data entry, this is a critical training for you tomorrow. So just thank you to all of you, and thank you to the Development Gateway team, and we will have this webinar recording available on a link to it on the IMS as soon as this is ready. So thank you for your time, and goodbye to all of you.